us about yourself, what motivated you to run for Gilbert Town Council, and what
Mhm.
experience you bring to this role.
Sure. And again, thank you again for having me, and thank you for all that you guys do for our town. I am an Arizona native, second generation actually. My mom was born at Luke Air Force Base. My dad was from the East Coast, moved out here several years ago, back in his 20s. They met, and the rest is history. So, born and raised here in the East Valley, lived in Gilbert most, if not all, of my life. My parents still live in Gilbert in the house I grew up in. So, I went to ASU, graduated from ASU. I got a job at 18 years old working for the Maricopa County Adult Probation Department because my family was in law enforcement. And so I was promoted there 4 times, and I stayed there for about 25 years at the Maricopa County Adult Probation Department, where I served. In a number of different roles, but I served in management for about 14 years there, during my last 14 years, mainly in the sex offender division. So I managed some of the highest risk, my officers did, highest risk population in our community. So I specialized in that field. I retired about 4 years ago. I started my own consulting company. So I consult privately on criminal cases. I also was asked to get involved at the legislature 4 years ago. So I worked to pass one of the Arizona's biggest criminal justice reform bills, bringing a sex offender management board to Arizona. I've worked on a number of um, bills since then to make people on probation's all lives a little easier, to promote rehabilitation for all people on probation. And what else? Victims' rights. I just had a bill this session pass to strengthen victims' rights in Arizona. So what prompted me to run? I've served the county, my home county. I'm serving working kind of at the legislature to make our community safer, our children's lives safer. At the same time, I do have the probation side of things, so I'm passionate about um, rehabilitation, those efforts, victims. And really, it comes back to me wanting to serve my hometown in the best way that I can. I think Gilbert has, especially in recent years, faced a lot of, just struggles and troubles. And I also want to say I'm the product of my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was a small business owner, always owning, restaurants and bars. And so I definitely grew up hearing, the struggles that small business owners face. And so that was, I grew up in that environment. So I am very passionate about, small businesses and business and really just our town. That is my hometown. So sorry, that's a long answer, but yes.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. We always like to hear a passion for Gilbert. So when it comes to economic development and business and the business environment, what new or existing initiatives would you support to encourage businesses to start, grow, and stay in Gilbert?
Yes, no, this is a great question. I would love to know, kind of what Gilbert's done in the past, what's working, and what we definitely can improve upon to keep uh businesses here and attract them. I think an initiative I'd like to maybe look into is um maybe the Gilbert Business Growth Initiative, maybe an all-in-one approach to um cutting red tape for businesses, um, looking at startup grants, fee waivers, things like that to get, businesses here if we're not doing those things. An entrepreneur, perhaps mentorship program, how do we say someone has an idea, right? But they don't really know how to get it off the ground. What entrepreneurs in Gilbert can we connect them with, and how do we get them, to stay here to start this business in Gilbert. And obviously, um, there's regulations or regulatory issues and hurdles that can, how do we fast track um, permitting for business? Do we do any of the red tape audits? Are we hearing from businesses, what are their biggest struggles, I would say, in getting some of those things, passed. I guess that's off the top of my head what I would say.
A strong answer. And my follow-up to that is around regulatory hurdles and permitting challenges. So is there any additional, you already talked some about that, anything additional you'd like to add to that?
No, just what are we doing to, when a business is trying to get started, or, are they being guided? Are they being given maybe like a concierge service? Are we having, people from the town, communicating with them what's going on, things like that, and anything we could do to improve upon that.
Okay, excellent. The town council has recently approved significant increases to utility rates. So how do you balance infrastructure needs with the financial impacts on residents and businesses?
Yeah, this is obviously has been a really big topic here. I hear it from everyone, out talking to residents, neighbors, I'm concerned about those on fixed incomes that are telling me I don't want to run my dishwasher, things like that. This is impacting us. I guess I would say, what what do we need to learn from this situation that either we didn't see this coming, or what can we learn so this doesn't happen again, that we're having a rainy day fund, we're planning for infrastructure costs, because obviously, every year, Gilbert gets older, we all, everybody. So what are we doing, excuse me, to plan ahead so, residents and businesses aren't hit with such an explosive cost all at once, because it is hitting, everyone really hard. So I really think we need to look at what happened and then what we can do to plan better in the future.
Thank you, Beth. As Gilbert approaches build out, what types of businesses or industries should the town actively prioritize or perhaps not prioritize, and why?
I love local, unique, small businesses that I might hear that my family and friends that live on the west side or Scottsdale, they want to come to Gilbert because they love that business, that, and they have a social media page and they're like, wait, I want to go there. And then I want to have lunch there at that unique, restaurant, or, something. I love unique, I guess, restaurants, not really, when I go to travel places, I don't want to go to chains, I want to go to unique places. Obviously, we want to attract, high paying jobs when we, where we can, but um I always wish, Gilbert, I'm a sports fan, so I really wish we would have like spring training here, but we probably don't have the space for that. But I always think of places where, like, when I want to travel, um, what makes me want to travel someplace. My son and I just went to Fort Worth for his birthday, and he wanted to go to Texas randomly. And, they had like the Fort Worth, the stockyards down there, and it's like unique to Texas, right? So what is unique to Gilbert that, you go back to your town in Minnesota, you're like, you have to go here, you have to go to Gilbert. It's unique and fun, and you got to go here. So popular, I'd say, experiences, that people can go back. And I love anything we can do to tie in the heritage and culture of Gilbert. I would love to prioritize those things.
Thank you. So we spoke about new development. Let's talk about redevelopment. What role do you think redevelopment should play in Gilbert's future, and what outcomes would you hope to see from that effort?
Yeah, I think that you can, and I know we're redeveloping, I think it's the Northwest Corridor I was just reading about, and I'd love to learn more about that. I think that, as parts of Gilbert age, we want to stay on top of what we can do to revitalize, older shopping centers, right? That might look dated and attract, as old tenants maybe move out, or, what can we do with those areas to freshen them up? Again, bring people here, new businesses, whatever we can do when we're talking about, redeveloping some of maybe the aging areas of our town.
Thank you. I'm going to switch gears on you for just a moment. With the transition in town leadership, including the recent departure of the town manager, how will you help ensure stability and effective governance during this period of time?
Yeah, I think for me, presence, being present, being accessible, um, being consistent, learning. I mean, learning from, the people that are here, learning, taking it all in. Um, I think I'm a servant leader. I love to serve in every capacity, whether it's Maricopa County, um, the clients I've served, it's with heart. Communication is key. I think sometimes change can be scary for people. I think change can also be an opportunity um, for newness and new things, new ideas, just new. So it's not always a bad thing. I think, but that's I think how I would be present, accessible. I'd like to learn from the people here.
Thank you, Beth.
Well,
Eric?
thank you. Yeah, so Gilbert has a large and growing municipal budget, right? How will you approach budgeting and prioritization to ensure responsible spending while supporting essential services and economic growth?
Yeah, the budget, yes. I go back to definitely starting with core government roles first, public safety, infrastructure. We want to keep our residents safe. We want to have a strong, effective police department. This helps residents, businesses, to have a safe community, and of course, infrastructure. I think we have to, um, working in government for a long time, there's oftentimes government waste, right? There's a lot. Where can we focus our efforts, tie spending to measurable outcomes so we know that we're being good stewards of um, our tax dollars? Um, Probably maintain strong reserves, making sure there's reserves there for us and definitely invest in economic drivers to our town. But that's what I would say with budget and prioritization.
Okay, now shifting gears a little bit, what responsibilities do elected officials have in setting the tone for respectful discourse, and how do you model that in your interaction?
Elected officials have the responsibility to set the tone for civil discourse and how we engage publicly. Um, I'm a mom. I always consider my kids are watching, and if your kids are always watching you, and um, you're never going to see me on Twitter just or social media just engaging in um, dispolite discourse. I think it's not me, but it's also not what our town needs, our country needs, our state needs. I think we are really looking, and I think we're struggling to find, and we need more people in elected office to model the way that we don't always have to bite. Working in public safety and in such a um, high stressful career job, I've dealt with many difficult situations, high risk situations, remaining calm. Um, but really, at the end of the day, that's very important to me that we bring back civility, kindness. We're not always going to agree, but how we treat each other at the end of the day. And like I said, my kids, they pick up everything, we say and do. And it's very important to me to model for them to be respectful and kind. And we have to do that as adults, and especially, I think, as elected officials. That's very important.
Well, what does a strong, effective partnership with the chamber look like in practice, and how would you engage in the business community if elected?
Yeah, I mean, small businesses are the backbone of our, of our town, of our communities. I want to be invited to events. I want to hear from you guys. I want to call Sarah, what's going on. I want to be accessible. As I said, be accessible here. Are there things, is the legislature, can they help us? Is there anything they can do? Are they doing things that hurt us? We need to stay involved. I would say the state level, make sure, and that's you guys also, just telling me what the business community needs and really just being accessible, available, and hearing and then taking action really on, because I mean people can listen all day long, but then if there's no action, it doesn't really matter. But I just maintaining a strong partnership to make sure I am always aware of what big business, small business, whatever's going on at Gilbert, I need to know. And I'm happy to be a partnership or partner with you.